we're capable of art, we're capable of travel, we're capable of a lot of stuff, and animals simply are not.
So if I found a human who is not capable of art or anything like that, can I eat the human? My name is Natalie, and I'm here with Miles and Mark, and we're going to be talking about veganism. So when I say vegan, like, what are the first thoughts that come into your mind?
Realistically, I know a lot of bodybuilders who do veganism pretty hard. I think more diet control. It's a whole challenge to be completely vegan. It's not even like vegetarianism. It's something you gotta really ask everything you eat, you know?
What do you think?
Nate Diaz is a vegan, so I will vouch. I will vouch for that people can be tough and be vegan. So.
Have y'all seen Game Changers? It kind of goes into the Nate Diaz, Conor McGregor, and Conor McGregor's like, I eat steak all day, and then Nate like beats him. It's very satisfying to watch. So yeah, I kind of like to define veganism. So it's not really a diet, even though that's how people think of it. It's more like an ethical stance against animal abuse. So how do y'all feel about animals?
So I live in Alaska, so I come from a kind of a weird spot for this, where there is a lot of natural harvesting because there is simply not enough food, I guess, to naturally source. I am absolutely wholesale against factory farms, slaughtering that. I think if you're going to eat meat, you should do it ethically sourced the best you can. Same with hunting, same like anything else. Like in Alaska, you got to harvest 80% of the animal. That's just not bones, everything. It's the whole animal.
Yeah. So another kind of part of the vegan definition is that it's to reduce animal suffering as far as practicable and possible. So if you're in a situation where you don't have access to other foods, then you can morally justify taking an animal's life to survive. Would you say you're in that situation, or would there be, like, are there vegans there?
Oh, there certainly are vegans in Alaska, but it's not the commonplace. Mostly it's cost prohibitive. And even with it, I guess just focus on the Alaska concept, there's a lot of laws and regulations to keep the hunting ethical, good sourced, and control the population versus more of free reign. I think minimizing suffering in a general sense is probably the move.
Yeah.
But there's certain times and places where it is eat or be eaten, kind of.
Yeah, and I'm not going to argue with someone about going vegan in one of those places where, like, you know, you don't have options. But how about you? Where do you live?
I live in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay. So do you think you could be vegan in Atlanta?
Could be as in, like, I had to choose, like, whether it's possible or not. It is most definitely possible to be vegan anywhere you are.
Sure. So Atlanta also has, like, one of the best vegan restaurants called Slutty Vegan.
I've actually been there.
Actually, yeah.
Fantastic place. I actually love their food.
Okay, sick. So do you think that animals should have rights? Like, do you think they should be killed or treated badly?
So I can kind of, like, label down my thing in just one simple kind of paragraph is I understand the whole common argument of, like, okay, everybody has dogs, everybody has cats. Like, it would be horrible if somebody were to say, hey, like, would you eat a dog in America? And it's different than when somebody would say, would you eat a cow? And I completely understand that that's different. But it's just the world that we live in. It's the classifications that we are in. And the social norm of the world right now is that, no, across the modern world, it is not very common characteristic to eat dog. But it is to eat cow. So it really depends on where you are.
So it's kind of like essentially what you're saying there is that, like, kind of culture defines how we should and should not behave. Would you agree with that or no?
I think culture has a certain definitely influence on the opinion of everybody, but I'm not saying that it's wrong to be a vegan in a certain spot and it's wrong to be a meat eater in a certain spot.
I'm going to add in on that because also I've been overseas. I'm in the Army. I've been overseas more than once. And dog and cat in certain countries are just what you eat. That's what's available. Yeah. And I've knowingly eaten both dog and cat. It's what's on the menu, it's what's available. And if the choice is between you not eating or eating a dog and cat, you know.
Yeah, once again, that's kind of back to necessity. But I guess I kind of want to drill down on the culture point. Like, if something's cultural, does that therefore make it okay?
Well, I guess you look at morality, if you're going to get real deep with it, that morality is defined by the culture that you live in. So, yeah.
Do you think it should be? Because I could throw out some examples where that would show that, you know, culture was wrong.
Absolutely. I mean, we're currently in New Orleans in the Deep South. I mean, you could go back 120 years and then go ahead and see, or even 60 years and go back to Jim Crow and see that was a cultural accepted thing and that's not where it should be.
Right. So would it be safe to say that culture changes and evolves along with morality?
Absolutely.
Okay. And do you think that's a good thing and that we should be, questioning our morals?
Yeah, absolutely. Part of morality and being a person is questioning what you do and kind of continuously evolving and looking forward.
I mean, how do you evolve if you're not asking questions? I mean, being psychotic is the literal definition of doing the same thing over and over again without expecting a different result.
Yeah.
If you do the same thing over and over again and you don't ask questions, then you're probably not going to learn as much.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I really appreciate y'all, like being willing to kind of challenge some of your opinions on this. So I guess I'll ask kind of a few more questions, like what do you think's more important, your taste pleasure or animals' lives?
So I guess that kind of boils down to two things. Is one, the animals' lives, if they live a good life up to it. Like I know a lot of people who are ranchers, who are farmers or whatever, and their animals do live free range, and they do live until the age they can no longer reproduce, and they're humanely killed.
How do you humanely kill an animal?
When you see the factory farms, the big thing is where they drag them up into farms, into a scary, unknown place, drag them through a conveyor belt, right through the head.
Is that humane?
I don't think so.
So the interesting thing is that small farms, the animals are still killed in those slaughterhouses.
Oh, absolutely, but the slaughterhouses are on the farm itself versus sending them off to a factory.
Often they're not. Typically, it's very, very rare for them to be killed on site. They're, probably 90% of the time transported.
Oh, absolutely, and I'm not even arguing that.
Right.
That's kind of my point. Was I think animals should not be killed in that manner. I don't think that's acceptable at all. When you see the chickens or the pigs or whatever, and pigs are every bit as smart as dogs, and they're slaughtered in a way that they know it's coming. They know it's.
How are they slaughtered?
Most of the time they're packed into trucks, brought up to a slaughterhouse, and they have pigs whose sole job it is to get off the train because everyone else knows it's bad. So it's kind of like, they know it's coming and it's bad.
The other thing about pigs that a lot of people don't know is they're actually killed in gas chambers. Typically, it's considered the most humane way to do it. Do you think?
They can't get them off the train.
Yeah, because they don't like walking in single file line. Well, they get them off the train to go into the gas chamber, but they say that since there's 2 or 3 being lowered down, that it's more humane. So do you think being killed in a gas chamber is humane?
Well, you got the quick allusion to the Holocaust. I'm going to go ahead and lean to the no.
Yeah, the other thing I like to say is, what's the definition of the word humane if we looked it up in the dictionary?
I think being humane, to the definition of what us as humans really have the role to be, would be just thinking that what we're doing is right, but not just Americans, Africans, Europeans, Asians, everybody thinking that what is right.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like the standards as being as a whole of the human race. What's the best thing that we can do? And the thing is do we think that it's different as if you were to go down the street right now and there was a chicken coop and you wrung a chicken's neck and paid $10 to get the grilled chicken for it? Do I think that's wrong? I don't think it's absolutely morally correct. Do I think that somebody, and what I've done with most of my mission work is actually go to Africa, Zambia, Kenya, Uganda. Uganda's more of my home spot that I like to centralize on, but do I think that kids that will go 10 days without food should not have the right to be able to wring a chicken?
All right. Once again, that's a completely different situation. But let's say the way I think of morality is not necessarily like what someone believes to be right. I could see no problem with shooting a dog in the head. That doesn't mean that the action of shooting a dog is morally right. We should be looking at it through the dog's perspective. So from the chicken's perspective, is someone wringing their throat wrong?
From the chicken's perspective, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
do you think we should look through the victim's perspective when we're talking about these kinds of issues?
Well, hold on. We're not getting hostile. The whole idea is you look at it from the end result. Yeah, no one wants to get killed. But also the chicken, if given a good life up to right at the end, I think certain things' role in life is to be produce or to be food.
Do you think, say I had a really happy dog that had a good life, and then I had a dog who was suffering, which one would it be better to kill?
Probably the suffering one.
Yeah. So if you say, a really happy animal, if we're killing that one, at some point we've said, all right, that's enough happiness for you. So wouldn't it be better to say we should kill a factory farm chicken to put them out of their misery?
To me, that's the same as asking somebody with stage 3 cancer is, would you rather have the law in Oregon that, as I'm sure that you're aware, in Oregon, it's a different state of laws up there, and that's something that you can actually choose to do yourself.
Or even on the same vein of that argument, it's a slippery slope to say if I give someone a happy life and then kill them at the end of it, is it better to give them a bad life and cut those corners, or is it better to minimize cruelty, which I believe was the origin of what we were talking about?
So I think probably the best thing, maybe we could agree, would be to give them a good life and not kill them. What would you think about that?
So that's kind of contrary to veganism, if I'm not mistaken. So using eggs, milk, what have you, that is not vegan, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Well,
There's
that
no
would be
animal
vegan.
products, right?
Sure. So why don't vegans eat eggs or drink milk?
It's
Do you know?
exploitation of the animals, right?
Yeah. So there's other things to it. Like, for example, in the egg industry, when the male chicks are born, since they can't lay eggs, what do you think happens to them?
Oh, they're killed as soon as they're of weight to eat.
Yeah. Well, no. They're killed right away because they're a different breed from the chickens we use for food. So they're put into like a giant blender called a macerator. So yeah, they're getting blended up alive. What do you think about that?
So obviously no one wants to get blended alive, but that's
Yeah.
also kind of the realities of farming.
Right.
Same with any sort of substance hunting or living, that something's role is to live and then to be food for someone else. That's kind of the nature of...
So if we could go back to kind of the necessity thing, we live in a day and age where kind of for the first time in human history, we don't have to consume animals. We know how to be healthy as vegans, the information's out there, and when we're presented with the choice to eat an animal product versus not, then which one should we choose, given the choice?
I guess with that also goes into mind how much resources you have as a person.
What do you mean?
So to live completely vegan, to get the correct amount of food, vegetables and whatever, to supplement all your diets and make sure you have a healthy, balanced diet, a carton of eggs costs $2.12.
Sure. So this study actually came out in December, and it compared like different Western countries. It found that a vegan diet was 30% cheaper than omnivore diets, because when you go to the grocery store, meat and dairy are expensive. You're right, eggs are cheap, but that's about the only meat product that is cheap right now, and costs are going up. But the cheapest foods, Oreos, peanut butter, vegetables, rice, beans, all that stuff is really cheap. So in terms of cost effectiveness, veganism is better.
I mean, you look at the common poverty diet, rice and beans.
Yeah.
A lot of foods come from living from nothing and getting food.
Right,
So the option,
right.
if someone doesn't have a lot of resources to their name, is, reduce the amount of food you're intaking and kind of take a hit to your diet, or continue eating animals like we've been doing for most of our lives, and then maybe try to err on the side of making sure that animals are treated politely and with love before they die.
Well, if you did want to do that, the cost of meat goes up by like way more, and also we have to
About
look at the
35%.
environment. Yeah. But at the end of the day, like, what is the morally relevant difference in humans and animals that justifies killing animals when we don't need to, but not killing humans?
I guess the look at is what you classify as something that can think for itself. Eating pigs,
What if I found a human who was like mentally disabled and couldn't think for themselves? Could I eat them?
Let me ask you this. How many signs do you see that are on the highway that are saying, please, I am begging for food, everything except meat? I mean, have you ever seen one? I'm genuinely asking.
Oh, wait, are you asking if I've met
Have you seen
vegan homeless
Have you
people?
seen a homeless person, whatever?
I think.
So once again, this is coming back to necessity.
That dials back to the necessity argument. So I
Well,
don't
I'm
think
just saying that there's going to be a more ideal protein use and things that are...
I have met many homeless vegans, if that's what you're asking, but once again, that's necessity. We're not starving.
Homeless vegans?
I've met plenty of homeless vegans,
How
yeah.
do they get their sustainability? Just out of curiosity. What's like the things that they eat, the gram countage of the protein and the carbohydrates, the calories that everything's going in their body?
Yeah, I think they lean pretty heavily on beans and stuff like
I
that.
think we're getting into the necessity argument, which I don't think is.
I'm not sure why we keep coming back to necessity. So we've all agreed that it's not a necessity to
So we're talking
consume
about from
animal
a moral
products.
standpoint, if someone
So
doesn't
how
have
do we
need to, right?
justify taking the life of animals when we don't need to, is what I'm asking.
It's a food source, and we have canines in our mouth.
Okay.
We are endurance hunters. It's part of our diet. It's part of how we're made up.
Do you think because we can do something, for example, men had domination over women for most of human history. Men are typically physically stronger. Does that give men the right to dominate over women just because they can?
So that kind of dials down into the slippery slope argument, where just because we can, you will, which equating women to animals.
I'm comparing two different situations where you're essentially saying that because someone has the ability to overpower someone, it is therefore justified. As in saying we have the ability to overpower animals, does that make it okay?
All right, so we take that a step further and we say that women obviously have the same intellect, same emotional capacity, same everything that men do. That is obviously unjust. We take a step back and look at that more further. Cows don't live in the nature anymore. Chickens don't really live in
We've
nature
domesticated
anymore.
them.
We've domesticated them.
Yeah.
So kind of a part of growing up with humanity is looking at we're capable of art, we're capable of travel, we're capable of a lot of stuff, and animals simply are not.
So if I found a
again, I'm not
human
advocating.
who is not capable of art or anything like that, can I eat the human?
Is your argument that humans and animals are worthy of the same absolute consideration at all time?
No, that's not my argument. My argument is that animals' lives are more valuable than human taste buds, convenience, and traditions. What do you think about that?
I can dig that argument. I'm going to be honest. I'm not a fan of cruelty towards animals.
Right.
I'm a fan of humanely giving them a good life and ending their life in as painless a way as possible. And I don't think consuming the flesh is objectively wrong. I think doing it in the most humane way possible is no different than raising plants to do the same thing. Studies have shown that plants can feel pain, and the whole smell of like gas or grass being cut is them releasing that pain organism. So is harvesting plants then, if we're going down this slippery slope?
No, I think that's an interesting point. I think that in terms of the plants, whether or not they feel pain, we don't really know, right? We're not sure. But when you look at like comparing a vegan diet once again to an omnivore diet, the animals eat so many plants throughout their lives. So it takes 15 times. Well, it takes 15 times more plant deaths to. All right, y'all gotta go. Cool. Well, thank you so much for chatting. I truly appreciate it. Yeah, and would you ever maybe consider going vegan if you tried it, liked it?
I cut to a vegan diet.
Okay.
I've done the same exact thing. So.
Okay.
Yeah, we've done
so why don't you do it tomorrow?
Expensive.
But I told you it was 30% cheaper.
Having
where
lived
you
it,
are.
Yeah, having lived it, it's not.
What about you?
He said, I've actually gone on 3 cut diets by going vegan. So, I mean, my coach is very, very common into making me cut vegan-wise. But, I mean, the thing is that when I switch diets, I'm not like, this is more humane, this is less humane. I do look at it from, and I know that we said before,
Necessity.
that it's a necessity by population count. And that, I mean, the thing is that would China be able to successfully say, since we do not have, you're aware that in China they do not have girls that are like born. Would you think that I'm just saying, like, would they be able to get to the point where they could all sustain with taking that rule away with veganism?
So I'll just end on this note. You do not live in China. Every day you have the ability to either harm animals or not harm animals. I'm saying if you don't have to harm animals, why continue to do it? So. All right.
I appreciate the conversation.
Yeah. Thanks for, being chill and everything. Absolutely. All right. Y'all have a great day. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and become a patron today. If you missed yesterday's video, click to the left.